Welcome to the JB Webb Show. I am JB Webb. On today's show, we have an interview with Jeffrey Kaufman from Big City Comics, and he shares a lot of information about his successful book, Terminal Alice, new book, Whore, to come. And so then we go and do another little piece from Nude Night, a tribute to the art and the models. So please enjoy.
Down here at the JB Webb Show, our sponsor is bacon. Delicious bacon. You can use it so many kind of ways, and it tastes ever so good. Bacon, proud sponsor of the JB Webb Show.
Selling his romance. Oh, what a sin. And there will come a day, and youth will pass away, and what will be?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I am JB Webb. That is just a gigolo in the background. I meant to play something a little bit different, but that's what I got, surprisingly. Louis Prima. I think that was the original. Speaking of an original, we have a great interview on today's show. We want to welcome a pioneer in a particular field that we have never had the privilege to interview anyone in this particular space before. So we're very pleased to introduce you to today Jeff Kaufman. He is a graphic novel entrepreneur, and we're happy to have you on the show. How are you?
Hey, it's good to be here. Good to talk about comics.
Yeah, well, it's really cool to have you on. Your work can be found at bigcitystudios.com, bigcitycomicsstudios.com. I'm sorry, I'll pop it up there. That's why I have the visual portion. But the important thing is that you're actually pretty well founded in this whole comic book venture. What I think would be interesting to give us a little sense of how it all kind of came to be, and then maybe the future direction.
Well, Big City Comics opened up about 7 years ago, where we started working on different independent single-issue books like Ant, Tempest, Totem, Omega One, books like that. And what we learned through the field is that independents probably should be knocking out single issues and should work more on graphic novels. Mm-hmm. Most people in foreign countries won't buy single issue books from independents. So that was a tough thing. But we learned a lot in our first 3 years publishing. We published 31 single issues. Wow. And after that, decided to concentrate solely on graphic novels. Okay,
so a little bit of cutting your teeth there. Finding your market.
A lot of failure. Lots of failure.
Well, that's usually how things go, so that's cool. So you kept it very realistic in the sense of, I'm going into this and I know there's going to be a lot of trial and error. So now it sounds like you're really, 7 years into it and kind of at the payoff. What I think is cool is I got to, hear about a couple of your upcoming works. A lot of your current works people can see on the site are, the Terminal Alice. Holds the main page there. So that was the one that I think that you released just recently, within the last year?
Yeah, that was the book that came out. The artwork was done by Marco Turini. I wrote it. The colors were done by James Brown, all pretty well-known artists. And it was just really the culmination of just learning the craft, learning how to do things. A lot of people are always asking how you get into comic books. Well, anybody can get in. The question is how long you stay.
Right.
And we've been able to fight the good fight coming up on 7 years. We have 2 more graphic novels coming out. One is called Angel Fallen, and the first one coming out will be called, the children's book, it's called Whore.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody ever gets that joke.
With a W, it's called Whore. Okay.
It's called Whore.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right. Well, it must have been around then for a while.
Yeah,
it's gotten around.
That we couldn't... I wasn't sure that store owners would carry a book titled Whore.
Right, a little risque.
Yeah, so all we had to do was change the R to make it look like a gun, and then they said they could put it on their shelf.
That's hilarious, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, but all of you seem to have an affinity for empowered female characters, and then a lot of supernatural stuff.
Well, the thing about independence is you really can't do a mean, I would love to write Spider-Man
Right,
or
sure.
Superman or Batman.
Sure.
But in the end, I have to choose something that's going to sell and, possibly go to the next level. The idea, like Terminal Alice, was pretty easy. I got on a plane coming in from Philly, and the people I was working with said I didn't put enough TNA in my books.
Oh.
And I thought I was just writing books. I didn't know that, I had to actually have to have people like them.
Right.
And the idea came up with, 5 female contract killers, Terminal Alice, Alex, Laura, Lana, Karen, Eve, and each has $1 million on their head. So, it made for a pretty good book.
Okay.
But it is hard for a man to write for 5 different women.
Sure, yeah.
I can tell you that's no fun. But
So,
it
yeah.
wound up good, and people liked it.
But the good thing is you get to do some field study, though.
Yeah. When you're married, that's a little difficult.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get away with
Okay.
the field study.
All right. Well, I didn't want to unveil the fact that you actually have a whole other real job, and that's the cool thing, Jeff, is that we were talking a little bit before that, and you're like, I had to find a way to kind of pull the artists together, and so really what you're doing in this creating this whole world of graphic novels is promoting these artists, because you're saying you're writing the content. There are illustrators.
Yeah, I mean, the real thing is, it's a visual medium. So, other than, I set the tone, but these guys are the real storytellers. They're the guys who spend 8 hours a page trying to define, maybe the whopping 60 words I write per page.
Right.
And, that's whether I like it or not, I have to give them what they need. And that takes a while to learn how to write for an artist.
Yeah,
right?
that's
You can
interesting.
write a novel, but I'm not doing that here. I'm trying to describe what I see in my head. Hope that the artist sees the same.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask that. Is there? Does it take time to cultivate that synergy? Are there some people that you've worked with that you've just kind of had it more, instantly, or any insight there?
Well, there are some people you work with, and that they're just going to follow. If you write it, they're going to follow it.
Do they
and then there are the
ask
people
you?
Who need a certain amount of freedom. That you're going to have to just allow them to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And yes, after a while, I think of it, for example, there was a team, you had Brian Bendis and Mark Bagley who did a book called Ultimate Spider-Man for 118 issues.
Okay.
Now, that's a lot of books to work together, but by the time they were probably 4 or 5 books in, they knew each other pretty well. And, that's always a benefit. Like, for example, Terminal Alice was the first time I worked with Marco Torrini. Mm-hmm. He speaks no English. He's an Italian artist.
Wow.
So I had to learn how to write for him.
Wow.
And we're working on the next book, Horde, which, really allows me to, understand what I need to give him. And it is a give and take.
Well, that's interesting to get a deeper insight into the dynamics of this industry. What I guess is fascinating too is the artist rendition. Is there a lot of collaboration prior to? I know you just mentioned there's a little bit of a line between some artists that say I'll do my creative freedom, and some that say yeah, sure, give me your guidance, or what's your impression? Do you find that collaboration's more?
It's very tough. I think you have to lay your egos at the door.
Okay.
When you're working with somebody, and you have to figure out a common ground. Now, I've worked with some artists that it's been a nightmare. They want things a certain way, and they can't work any way else. Mm-hmm. And it shows in the book. The book suffers from it. Mm-hmm. And as a writer and as an artist, you both have to be in sync with each other, and you both have to have a basic respect for each other, what each other does.
Yeah.
And I think you can really tell in really good books that the artist and the writer were in sync with each other. They knew what each other wanted, and they were willing to compromise.
Yeah, and that's very insightful. So tell me, Jeff, so now let's talk a little bit, down the line. You have these 2 books coming out this year. You'd also spoke of a documentary, I think. Is there any information you could share about that with us?
Well, we own a studio. It's called Resurrection Studios, and we were working on an independent script after my son, who's autistic.
Okay.
And I couldn't write it. I was crying every page. And what happened was my wife said, well, why don't we do something else? I said, what am I going to do? A documentary on how to fail in comic books?
Okay.
and
there
that's
you
where
go.
it came out. It just came to write the good and the bad about what you're going to learn.
That's
and,
awesome.
You can blow a lot of money if you're not willing to listen to people. And,
Right.
I made huge mistakes. And the idea was I knew I have a lot of artists, friends, and writers, and people who run companies, and I knew they would clearly have no problem talking about, what they did wrong and, what they see wrong in the industry.
Right.
So that should wrap up sometime in June, and then be ready for a preview at Comic-Con this year in San Diego.
Oh, wow. That's pretty big. All right. Well, cool. Well, you heard it here, definitely. And now ongoing, the best. Now you also have the Facebook page. We're popping that out there also. Jeff.
Big City Comics.
Big City Comics. Here's the cool thing. If people, just want to go on and buy these books, the best way is through the website.
Yeah, they can go through the website or the Facebook. I mean, we have a store. People sell it online. We don't do digital comics. We haven't done that yet because I don't want the source to suffer.
So it's a physical. They would get a physical book.
Yes,
all right.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay.
Well, it's cool. This industry is a fun industry if you allow yourself to appreciate it. If you understand that you're not going to succeed on your first book. You're not going to come flying in and go, okay, I have this great idea. Well, everyone's got a great idea.
Sure.
I don't know how many people come to my booth every day and go, well, I did a book on vampires too, and I have a thought about it. And I said, well, the only way to really see it is for you to do it. And if you're going to do it, you might as well try to do it right. And I wish somebody in the beginning would have convinced me. Now, I had a lot of good friends who told me what not to do, but I was too proud. I was too stupid, and I had to learn through failure. And hopefully, I've been able to learn from that.
Well, you're definitely giving us the fruits of those experiences because the imagery, the storyline, it's all very cool stuff. I'm really looking forward to the documentary later in the year. I'm just so proud to have you on my show, man. What other avenues could you see this moving into? Are you prepared for maybe some movie success, or is that even in your mind currently?
Well, I think if you're doing an independent or you're doing a graphic novel, you definitely have to see it on the next level.
Right.
That's where you really see the success. That's where you really make money. You're not going to make it selling comic books. You're going to make it when it gets optioned to the next level.
Right.
And Terminal House has a good shot. We have an agent. Finally, a couple big agents came to us and said they'd love to have the opportunity to shop it. That's out there. And the next two books when they come out. And, you're always thinking about that. But it's got to be about trying to do good work. If you're too busy thinking about the lottery, there's just no way for you to be, to really learn your craft.
Right. Hard work is the payoff. So.
Yeah. I got to meet Stan Lee, and I asked him during the interview, I said, listen, I need you to give people the proper advice. And he said it. He said, listen, if you're not the best, then why does a company who has somebody better than you want to bring you aboard?
Wow.
And that's pretty hard to hear, but I think through writing and doing and working, that you really want to fight for it, you have a chance to get there.
Undoubtedly. Well, good sir, I thank you so much. I want to encourage people to go get your hands on one of these books. You will definitely want to hold on to it as well and preserve it as well as you can, because the hard work and energy behind it from Mr. Jeff Kaufman will undoubtedly push it into that stratosphere of movie someday, I think. So, I'm not Nostradamus over here, but anyway, hey Jeff, hold on the line with me if you could. You've been listening to the JB Webb Show. I found the right Just a Gigolo, by the way, and David Lee Roth is going to take us out with his song Just a Gigolo.
JB Webb Show, skibbity bop boo, skibbity bow, skibbity bop boo, bibbity bow.